Hello guys, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to show you another item that I picked up recently, and to be quite truthful, I don't know what it is. I don't know who used it. I'm not even sure that it's a Wehrmacht item, but it is period. It is from the, I would imagine, late 20s to late 30s period. And what it is, it's a little Bakelite container, and these would have been used by a lot of soldiers. They would have been able to pick them up somewhere, and you could house anything in them: matches, tablets, a wide variety of things could have been kept in them, and then kept in the bread bag. And that is the reason that I bought that particular item. It's a Bakelite box, as you can see, kind of a reddish brown color, and Bakelite is an early type of plastic. It's about 2.5 inches across and just about an inch deep, so it's quite a small container. It certainly isn't a butter dish. And as I said, I don't even know whether it's Wehrmacht or not, but it is marked with a Materialprüfungsamt mark, which is a kind of a State Materials Testing Institute mark, which is kind of a quality control mark, which was introduced in Germany in, I think, about 1924, and it continued after the war in West Germany up until the 1950s. This is not a post-war item though. So opening up the box, you've got markings on the inside of the lid. You can just about see them there. I'll take a photograph to show them a little bit clearer. And the base of the container is also marked. Again, you've got the markings there. The marking to the left is a round mark, has a stylized M, P, A, and as I said, that's the Materialprüfungsamt, which is the State Materials Testing Institute, and they were based at Dahlem in Berlin. And as I said, they used that particular mark from 1924 up until the 1950s in Western Germany. There's also a maker's mark on the right-hand side. You can see the stylized. It's a HRS, and that corresponds to the company of Hermann Römmler, and they were based in Spremberg, which was in Eastern Germany, ended up in East Germany after the war. The factory was completely destroyed during the war, and it was dismantled by the Soviets after the war. They restarted in about 1949 and 1950 in East Germany, but by that time the East Germans were using different types of markings for their testing. So that's why I'm almost 100% positive this is not a post-war item. So anyhow, as I say, it could have been made any time between 1924 and I would imagine the late 1930s, possibly early 1940s. As I say, has the mark on the left side and also the maker mark on the right side. Once the war started, they did away with the marking, the factory markings. As I say, I'll take a photograph of the markings to show it a bit closer, but there is a number just above the M, which is a 32, and the 32 corresponds to the company of Hermann Römmler. It is not the manufacturer date. I see a lot of reference on the internet that these numbers were when it was made, so it was not made in 1932. It is the maker mark. On the bottom is another number just below the, it's a letter actually just below the M. There's an S. And as I said, these markings were kind of a quality control marking, and they had a variety of different markings on the bottom to indicate what kind of material the containers, whatever, were made out of. In this case, S corresponds to it being phenolic resin with a wood dust or sawdust filler. So as I say, quite a nice item for my collection, just as I say, to be used perhaps in a mess, in a bread bag. As I say, I don't know what it would have been used for. I'll keep it in my first aid box in the meantime, but it's about the right size. If I were a soldier in World War II, I would have probably used that particular container here to keep tooth powder in it. The Germans did have toothpaste, but in the 1930s and 40s, the toothpaste were metal tubes, and the metal was required for the war service, for the war effort. so they're quite expensive and hard to get hold of. So the Germans introduced more and more tooth powders during the war. They were just powdered toothpaste, basically, in a cardboard or paper box. And you can imagine that this would have been ideal for keeping a little circle of tooth powder secure. Anyhow, as I say, that was just a little update on my latest purchase. As I say, I have no idea who it was used by. As I say, I don't even know whether it's Wehrmacht. The markings were also used on items for the German hospitals, for the German post office, a lot of government agencies, a lot of departments would have used plastics and the Bakelite, and because it's a quality control mark, it would have been marked for all these items. So again, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a Wehrmacht item, though you see a lot of Wehrmacht items with the material proofings mark, and I've got a couple of items with the same markings. So anyhow, that's the case there. Quite a nice little kind of reddish brown color, and it's quite handy size. Anyhow, as I say, I'll keep it in my first aid box. So that's my Wehrmacht first aid box, and as you can see, it fits into the top quite nicely with the rest of the contents here. So that's where I'll keep it in the meantime. But again, you can see that's the Bakelite case for the gas tablets, and it has the same marking on the top here. But this one is dated, I think, 1939, but you can see the MPA mark there, just to say that it's quality checked Bakelite. Anyhow, it looks quite nice in that little case. So, thanks for watching, as always, and bye for now.